It is a hot and sunny day here in Port Dickson, and I'm heading out on my bike. You can see the bike behind me there, just to do a little bit of a camera test. I've been working on the bike a little bit, updating a few things and figuring out ways to mount a couple of GoPros on it. And before I head out on this ride, I thought I'd give a little behind the scenes look at some of the things that I've been working on. One thing is adding a new cat eye cycle computer. The old one that I had a bunch of different problems. The battery was dead. And then down here on the wheel, there's a magnet and a sensor. There's the sensor right there. And here's the magnet. You mount the magnet on the spoke. And this plastic casing of the sensor just snapped right off. I don't know what happened. So I thought, I could rig something up to protect that and get a new battery. But to be honest, by the time you're done all that, it actually makes more sense just to buy a brand new one. So I ordered a brand new one off of Lazada. This is the Cat Eye Velo 9. It's exactly the same one as my old one. So I just got a new one shipped here to Port Dickson, and then I installed it. Interestingly enough, though, I've done this quite a few times in my life. When you have like the Cat Eye Velo 9 from a couple of years ago, and then you buy a new one, you think it's going to be exactly the same. But the new one, the new model, is always cheaper. So I noticed a whole bunch of differences. It's the Cat Eye Velo 9 and the Cato Velo 9 should be exactly the same, but in the intervening couple of years, they cheapened on all the different elements. So for example, on the magnet, it has a little clamp. On the old one, it was metal and much more durable. The new one is only plastic. There's a cord that connects the receiver here, the speedometer from the magnet, and the receiver and the sensor down there. And that cord is much thinner on the new one. So you go through the entire thing, everything has been cheapened. Metal to plastic, everything's thinner, everything's lighter, everything's made a little bit cheaper. And I find all companies do that once they get a certain amount of brand loyalty. And I was very happy with the Cat Eye Velo 9 that I had. So I thought, I'll just get another one. And they know you're going to do that as a customer, so they just save money by making everything a little bit cheaper, which is a bit unfortunate, but hey. Yeah, what I should have gotten was a wireless one, because it is pretty fiddly to set this whole thing up and to run the wires and get the wires out of the way. And they now make wireless models. I probably should have gotten one of those, but I just went for the most basic model that I could find. All I really needed to know was a distance covered, but pretty much that's all I need to know, really, distance covered. And it's nice to see the time. It's got a little clock on it, and speed. It has a whole bunch of other features, keeps track of all kinds of things, but I don't pay any attention to all of those. One thing you need to do, though, is you have to input the circumference of your wheel, because every wheel tire combination is different. So what I had to do was use a tape measure and actually measure the circumference of the wheel. Like if you go around the wheel fully, like one full circle, how far have you traveled in a straight line? And I had to figure that out. And on this tire, it came to 208.5 centimeters. So every time the wheel goes around once, I've covered 208.5 centimeters. And then I had to take that number and figure out the menu system and input that number into the Cat Eye. So I figured out how to do that, and it worked out pretty easily. But it is a very slow, methodical thing in order to install one of these. It's pretty simple, but you got to mount it here. You have to run the cord in a way that it doesn't interfere with anything else, mounting those, lining them up. It's a whole job, but it went smoothly enough. The other thing I did was figure out how to mount a couple of GoPros, and that's a pretty complicated procedure, as it turns out, because the way a bicycle, the geometry of a bicycle, the way it's set up, that if you put the GoPro on your handlebars, which is what normally you would do, you just put a GoPro right here, maybe put it on a little bit of an extension up here. If you do put the GoPro here, it's not far enough away, and it's looking straight up into the air. So it's very different from a motorcycle or a scooter. The geometry of the handlebars and the seat on a bicycle are completely different from a scooter. So what I found out is in order to mount a camera on a bicycle, you sort of have to do something like this. You have to mount the camera up higher and farther away from the bicycle. And I figured out a way of doing that with a broomstick. So as you can see, I've got this stick attached to the bike, and I have the stick attached to the frame of the bike, not to the handlebars, so that when you turn the handlebars, the camera doesn't move. It's affixed permanently to the bike. And one thing I wanted to figure out today is how long to make this. This is the full broomstick right now, and it makes the camera quite high, and the broomstick itself sticks out quite far, and it may be too much, a little bit too long. It can get in the way in certain situations. So I'm thinking of going for a ride, and then maybe I'm going to cut the broomstick down here to lower it and get the camera closer to the bike. And of course, the farther away it is, the more the stick is going to bounce around. And if you shorten it, you get less and less movement. And also what I've done is I mounted 2 cameras. So I have a mount here at the top, and this GoPro aims backwards at me. So it's going to be pointing in this direction. So this is my main GoPro. I'm recording with it right now because it has the microphone attached. So my main GoPro will go here, pointing backwards. And then I have a second GoPro mounted down here, which is pointed forwards. So this one pointing backwards, and then that one pointing forwards. And then I'll run both cameras at the same time. And then I can switch back and forth between those 2 views, syncing it up with the audio from one of the GoPros. And the other custom job that I put together here is down here, because when you mount something like this, you need to have it attached in 2 different places. So I have the base of the broomstick attached here, and then I have the broomstick locked into a lever, a claw here. So I have 2 mounting points, and you need at least 2 to hold anything steady. And something that I figured out this time around is that every broomstick has a broom at the end of it, and the broomstick screws into the broom itself. So what I did was I bought a broom, and then I cut the broom away, and I just left me with the plastic mounting point. And then I took a couple of hose clamps, and I attached the base of the broomstick to the bicycle frame using these hose clamps and zip ties. And then I can screw the broomstick into here, and that way I can detach it very, very quickly. I can put it on the bike and take it off that way. So that's basically what I've done, and I'm going to head out on the road and test this. All right, right now this is the view from the GoPro that's mounted lower on the broomstick, and it does not have a microphone attached to it, and it is actually hanging upside down, dangling down from the broomstick. And that doesn't really matter because on the GoPro you can have it oriented in any direction, and the video just orients itself properly. So, and this is the view from the main GoPro, the Hero 12, that's mounted at the top of the broomstick. There we go. Oh. So let's go for a little bit of a ride and test this. And I guess I'm just going to ride to downtown Port Dickson, maybe go down to the waterfront, something like that. It is one hot day. The bike was just sitting there just for maybe 10 minutes while I was talking, and yeah, the metal on the bike is red hot, and my GoPro was also red hot. I've made a few discoveries recently, if I may babble about technology for a couple of minutes more. I discovered recently that if you Well, I discovered recently that the frame rate of your video dramatically affects heat on the GoPro. So if you shoot at 50 or 60 FPS, it produces probably double the amount of heat as if you're shooting at 25 FPS or 30 FPS. I didn't know that. So I think when my GoPro was overheating so often in Vietnam, contributing to the problem was the fact that the GoPro was set to 50 FPS, because I think the video looks a lot better at a higher frame rate, even if you don't use it. Like normally you shoot at a high frame rate because you want to use slow motion. You want to slow the video down while you're editing, but I don't do that usually. But I think the higher frame rate looks better. So I was shooting at a high frame rate, and that meant the GoPro was overheating and the file sizes were twice as big as otherwise. So yeah, it's better to shoot at a low frame rate. Another big consideration when you're mounting a camera on a bicycle or a scooter is taking the camera off the bicycle or the scooter. So it's one thing to mount the GoPro on the bicycle, and there are certain things you want to do. You want it to be very solid, a very strong mounting system. So I have a very strong system, and I like to have a tripod ball head so I can turn the camera and point it in any direction I want on any angle. So those are the two main things for mounting it on a bicycle. But if you do that and get the toughest, sturdiest mounting system you can find, the compromise is that it's now more difficult to put the camera on and off. So now you're busy riding your bike, that's fine, but now you want to hop off the bike, go into some place, but you want to bring your GoPro with you. Now it takes much longer to get your GoPro off the bicycle. So now you're looking for more of a quick release mounting system. So, but when you add a quick release mounting system, it becomes less sturdy, less durable, and you introduce a little bit of play in the mounting system. So you're really trying to balance all of these things. You're trying to balance the complexity of the mounting system. You want it simple, and you want to make it really, really firm and strong, but then you also want to be able to move the camera, like just very quickly disconnect it from the Broomstick, for example, and then reconnect it to my neck mount. So I have a quick release system on top of a ram mount, and it gets very, very complicated to figure all these things out. So that's what I'm testing as well. Yeah, my Broomstick is it's moving around a lot more than I expected. There's a lot of bobbing up and down and waving from side to side. Considering how sturdy everything is that I use to mount it, I was expecting it to be much more solid. So I might have to lower the Broomstick, cut it shorter in order to reduce all that movement. I'm not sure. So far so good. I just stopped to check the video, and just glancing at it on the GoPro, everything seemed to be working fine. And despite the intense heat and being out in the direct sun, no overheating yet. So this 25 frames per second seems to be helping quite a bit. Normally the GoPro, it would have overheated already. Just getting from my house to downtown Port Dickson in this temperature, it would have overheated already. And the other choices that I make basically is field of view. I guess GoPro calls them lenses. The GoPro Hero 12 has changed everything from the Hero 9. It's different from what I'm used to. Now you've got linear, wide, super view, and then mega super view or something like that. But there's also linear plus horizon leveling. And linear with horizon leveling, that's what I want to use, because then if your GoPro isn't perfectly straight, it doesn't matter. It's going to automatically keep the horizon level. And that's just very convenient. But linear plus horizon leveling or horizon lock, whatever they call it, is actually the narrowest field of view. So that's something else I want to test to see whether this is right now is linear plus horizon lock, and that's the field of view that you get. And I'm wondering whether it's too narrow or is it wide enough? You know, I was thinking that the Broomstick was too long, but I mean, once you're out here in the real world, things like that don't matter as much. When you're looking at your bicycle inside your room and you mount a broomstick on it, it looks really silly. And the broomstick looks like a giant spear sticking out of the front of your bicycle. It just doesn't look normal. But a lot of those sorts of things, I find as soon as you get on the bike and you start riding, then yeah, everything's fine. You don't really notice it as much. I suppose other people looking at your bike will go, oh, look, he has a GoPro on a stick. But it doesn't look that crazy, at least not for me. So I'm down near the waterfront now. I've got McDonald's right ahead of me, Starbucks over there on the left. I'm just going to ride along the waterfront a little bit. And at some point, I'm going to move the GoPro from the mount to my neck mount, and then just sort of test that out. Yeah, here we are. It'll be interesting to see what this video looks like. I suppose one negative thing about this particular mounting system is that neither camera really shows you the point of view of the rider. So this GoPro is looking at me, but the other GoPro is looking straight ahead up the road. So you don't get that sort of first-person dynamic perspective. You don't see the handlebars. You don't see my hands. You don't get that feeling of you riding the bicycle. To get that, you'd have to have the GoPro mounted here on my, either on a chest harness or a neck mount. But now the way I have things worked out, if I put the GoPro here, you're actually going to see the broomstick right in the middle of the shot. So that does get a little bit weird. Here's Zeus Coffee. Zeus Coffee is definitely the most popular place in Port Dickson these days. It's always full. And a different perspective here, just getting off the bike and walking it a little bit. And this is interesting too, because now that I'm pushing the bike, the bike is sort of on an angle, so the GoPro is on an angle. But because I have horizon lock on, it should still keep it level. All right, well, just for fun, now let's change the GoPro to my neck harness. And as I said, this is probably the most complicated thing to think about, because you can easily mount a camera any way you want, but a fixed mounting spot, that's so easy to do. But if you want to be able to move it from one to another very quickly and easily, then things get a little bit complicated. And right now, as I said, I'm using the Tellison quick release mechanism, which is built into this. So basically, I take this GoPro and take it off. And I mount it there. So that's relatively easy. But so from here, as I said, now if I adjust the camera properly, you can see my handlebars and the road ahead. But now you have the broomstick kind of in frame as well. But I don't know how much of a distraction that is. As I said, mounting a camera on a bicycle is much more difficult than mounting it on a motorcycle or a scooter. It has a completely different shape, completely different geometry. So this is the child's carnival. Heading back the way I came. Got the GoPro mounted back on the end of the broomstick. Hello. But again, if you're out riding for the day, you can choose what you want to do. For example, I could, on the broomstick method, I would have these two different GoPros, the two different perspectives. This one facing me and the other one facing forward, both on the broomstick. Ooh, but I could easily stop at any point and just remove the broomstick, and then I could use a different mounting system, one GoPro here, and then the other GoPro mounted right on the handlebar. And that's a simpler perspective. So it's like two completely different setups. Hi.
Hi.
How are you? beautiful day. I mean, yeah, as an experiment, I mean, this is the very first time I've used this at all. As a first time, it's working pretty well. I can fine tune this system a little bit, but I mean, yeah, as I said, as a first time experiment, you can't really ask for better results than this. And I'm very impressed with the result of lowering the frame rate. As I said, under normal circumstances, or what was normal before, the GoPro would have overheated a couple of times and shut down already. But so far, it hasn't overheated at all. And I'm using quick capture, which helps a lot, which means that when you're recording, you just hit the record button and the camera automatically powers on and starts recording. And then when you stop recording, it turns the camera off. So in between the times when you're recording, the GoPro is not on anymore. So you're basically powering the GoPro down completely and then powering it back up again, which also lowers the heat output dramatically. So I can think of a few problems with this system that I'm using right now, a few complications, but nothing that isn't insurmountable. It's not a deal breaker. I'll just have to look at the video on my computer and see just how much the camera bobbing up and down is affecting it, but whether the GoPro stabilization can compensate that or not, compensate for that or not. And the other issue right now is that my second GoPro, because it's hanging upside down, I didn't dare use a quick release system. It feels like it wouldn't be strong enough. So I don't have a quick release mount on that GoPro. So putting it on and taking it off takes a little bit longer. Just for fun, I thought I'd try out a couple of the other views, the lenses. So this is actually hyper view right now. So on the GoPro Hero 12, I looked up on the menu, there's hyper view, which is the widest, then super view, then wide, then linear, and then below that linear plus horizon leveling. So on the GoPro facing me, this is hyper view, and on the GoPro facing forward, this is hyper view, and on the GoPro facing forward, I think that's a super view, and that's as high as it goes because that's the GoPro Hero 9. I hope that all makes a little bit of sense. So yeah, here we go. Hyper view and super view. Still down at the waterfront, but I'm going to head from the waterfront back to my home. There's one other thing I was going to try out, and that was maybe to take my 360 camera selfie stick and mount it on the end of this stick. And then that would essentially put the 360 camera up above me like it's some sort of like a drone or something. But I don't know whether it would actually work or not. It's beautiful here. So that is Hyperview, and I'm going to take the Hyperview GoPro and mount it here just for fun. Quick release. And there's Hyperview. I think it's called Hyperview. Looking forward. So, how does that look on a Hyperview with the broomstick right in the middle? I don't think I've ever used Hyperview before. Yeah, one problem with the GoPro system, as far as I can figure out, is that the only way you can get horizon lock is using linear. So if you're using wide, get a wider field of view, you don't have horizon lock or horizon leveling or anything like that. You can only get it with linear. A little bit of a shortcut getting across this creek. So yeah, that was Hyperview, as I said. Now I've changed the main GoPro ahead of me to Superview. Hello. And this is the next part of my shortcut back to my house. Takes me through this apartment complex. And the GoPro that's pointing forward, I still have it on super view, which is the widest, the widest setting for the Hero 9. Yeah, it's one thing about dogs when they're chasing you from behind, you hear them barking, and they're not really a big problem for me. I'm accustomed to it. But you're never quite sure how close they are to your calves. I'm not worried about being severely hurt by a dog, but even getting a little nip by one, a little bit of a bite, it can make your life so much more complicated because now you're thinking, about rabies, and you've got to go get checked out, and it turns into a big deal, you know? It can ruin your whole day, getting nipped by a dog. Yeah, it's the very first dog in Port Dickson that ever chased me on a bicycle. Kind of interesting. I've ridden this bike by packs of dogs, stray dogs, but none of them have ever chased me before. That was the only one. So this is a super view with the GoPro facing me. And now I'm going to put this GoPro onto my neck mount in super view and get that comparison for the last 100 meters or so back to my house. Yeah, I must admit, that is pretty handy, that little quick release system. I'm waiting for a package to be delivered as well. I thought it was going to be here days ago, but nothing has shown up yet. So I keep waiting and waiting to see the mail truck. And here we are, back home. And this is what makes it so handy to have the quick release system, because now that I'm off the bike, you know, I can have my camera here on my chest mount. I can flip it back and forth from being mounted on the bike over there up at the top of the stick, and just pop it off and put it on my neck mount, and then go back and forth. So, and I guess that's it for this little test. Here's a close-up look of the GoPro on the front. This is a RAM mount system, by the way, very hardcore. It's probably the strongest mounting system money can buy. I've learned that you pretty much have to have something like this. All the cheaper stuff, none of it will really hold. So what I like about it is how durable it is, how strong it is, but it's also essentially a tripod system, so you can actually turn the camera in any direction you want. because it's this ball joint, you know, that goes in any direction, which I really like. And then I have the same basic system up here at the top, except that I added the Tellison quick release mount right up there. So that's it for this little test. Little behind the scenes look at how the bike is coming along. Oh, this, by the way, is the kickstand that I bought here locally in Port Dickson. It's a real piece of junk. It's a terrible kickstand. It's not going to last very long, but it's all I have right now. So I'll just keep using it for as long as it lasts and until I can find a more durable one, a better one. All right, that's it. Shutting down this little test. You can see the sweat on my brow. Very hot and sunny day. But yeah, very successful little test. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I haven't seen the video myself yet, but just based on mounting the cameras, everything kind of worked all right. So I'm pretty happy about that. All right, see you in the next video. Just to complete this little demo, I thought I'd show how the broomstick comes off. It's basically being held in place with a clamp here. It's a ram mount clamp, but there's just one lever here. You loosen that, and then you just turn, and it unscrews from the broomstick, and that's it. So that's how it comes off. And now the bike is basically just free of it. And once you want to mount the GoPro again, you just run it through that clamp. It goes into the broomstick holder at the bottom. You screw it into place and tighten down this lever. And that's it. That's all you need to do. As I said, undo the lever, unscrew it, and it comes right out. Nothing could be easier.